the 3rd of May, and Zambia joined the rest of the world in commemorating this very special day in as much as press freedom is concerned. We'd like to welcome our YouTube live audience as well as our Facebook live audience to this particular program as we get to chat. My special guest, Boy Chiwale, Project Manager, Radio Waves Ishui, and he's also a senior journalism mentor at BBC Media Action. I also have the MISA Zambia chairperson, that's Helen Mwale. So you're at liberty to ask questions to my distinguished guests on the program by texting, WhatsApping, as well as mobile phone calling. All right, I can see quite a number are trying to call on the program, but I'll open the lines in a teeny tiny bit. But I just want them to hit the ground running on some of the points that we left hanging, getting into the second hour. So let me start with Boyd, then get on to Helen. Boyd, do you think there is objectivity in the way the media reports on events in this country?
Tricky question. There are several facets to understanding as to whether there's objectivity or not objectivity. Firstly, a journalist who has graduated from a journalism school knows that one of the principles of good journalism practice is to observe objectivity in the reporting of issues, in the analysis of issues and things like that. It's not allowed to be subjective. You cannot take one side and let it flow just like that. You need to be objective. You need to be balanced in what you're doing. You need to be seen to be providing an opportunity for A and B to offer opinions about a particular issue. So those issues are very cardinal to always observe. However, there have been instances where people or the media has been accused of being insensitive to the demands of objectivity in the way they operate. And in some cases, yes, these have been genuine concerns, and I think relevant bodies have taken this up and have offered solutions. Where a journalist has been cited for lack of objectivity, institutions such as MISA, ourselves, and many others have tried by all means to provide in-house capacity building, where we retrain journalists, give them refresher courses on about reminding them about the objectives of a good journalist, a good media practitioner. And I think in most cases this has helped a lot. But of course, there are instances where also even individuals have to play a role in maintaining the good name of journalism when it comes to objectivity. There are some times that journalists have been, like I said earlier, cited for being insensitive to objectivity, not because they don't know it. They do know it, but probably there's an element of negligence in the line of duty. And this raises, a lot of questions. But I know that radio stations and TV stations that we are working with are alive to this fact. And that is the reason why in most places where we have worked, we have emphasized on institutions to come up with their own editorial guidelines, simplified editorial guidelines that would help the journalists in those stations to be remembering all the time that they have got a code of conduct, so to speak, that they should follow as they execute their duties. And in most places, these simplified guidelines are hanging on the wall for everyone to see. We encourage them to put them in reception areas, in the studios, production rooms, marketing rooms, and elsewhere, so that everyone who walks in can read and be reminded of the fundamental principles or needs of being objective in the line of duty.
Okay, all right. I'll ask the same question to you, Helen. Do you feel that there's objectivity in the way the media reports events in this country?
Yeah, I think Boyd has handled it very well. To some extent, no, because most of the time we'll find that most of these stories that we are doing are unbalanced, or due to the economic situation going through in this country, or the economic situation in the media houses. I think we have seen what is talked about in the film for this year as when we talk about fear and favor.
The fear or favor.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of fear and a lot of favor when we are doing our stories, because somebody is sponsoring me, somebody is paying me, somebody is providing adverts. So we tend to lose it and try to favor those people. And by doing that, we are not being objective. Journalism is about truth and must continue to be as such. Because if we are not being honest, we are not providing fair coverage, we are not balancing our stories, we are not accurate. Facts need to be verified, but we are not doing all that.
We're not being factual.
Then we are losing it. We are losing it. And that has brought a lot of very negative sentiments from the public out there. But I know there's still room for us to do better. We can do better by ensuring that we stick to our principles, guiding principles in journalism, and just allow ourselves to operate freely. One of the things that comes into play whenever a journalist has a story, I think it's also the gatekeepers in the newsrooms. The gatekeepers. Sometimes they want to spike a story, despite the journalist working so hard to do that story. And sometimes it's ourselves, because I don't like this particular source of news, then I will not ask them to provide comment on a particular story that I'm working on, which should not be the case, because we all know that journalism is about balancing.
Okay.
Be it in the negative or positive, journalism is about balancing your stories, is about telling the story as it is, and it's about being factual. So that is how it should be, not two ways about it.
Okay, let me get a few calls at 10:18 Central African time. All right, so here we go with our very first call on the program. You're through to ChatBack. Good morning, Maxton Lachampo.
Good morning. How are you, Mr. Champo? Long time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kudos to Mr. Moise Katichwari, who taught me journalism in the BBC Africa Media, and I'm a correspondent for that part.
Great.
To Daniel Skazwe, you also currently in one session in journalism. Let me come to this. I am so happy that Zambia media on the board, and that's too beautiful. And like when you were about to say, shut up, shoot videos, that was wrong. And let me come to the other thing. I was proud of one thing. Yes, the various media are doing bad, and let me to be a typical example of KMC radio example. These people, they know how to edit and read the news, correct edit and read. What do I mean? They make the people whom they are editing to talk. They don't just say this and that. No. They even bring that person they wanted to the board and to humor it. The other thing, we had rural news through Roma, Riseri, Sumano, Indula. That's where we were reading where we come from and the development in rural areas. What is the local board? But lastly, let me say this. When we come to reading the news, it's always this, the president can lose, vice president this, minister said this. Not to say example, we were eliminated the hunger in the same day. You have no idea about it, and nobody has seen it. So for this, try to cover as many places as you can, so that we have a balance to retire
Excellent. Thank you, Wachitondo Champo. All right. Boyd, you're privileged to have met Wachitondo Champo. Some of us have never met him.
Oh, I have. When I was in the Copper Belt, I met him several times, and when we started running training programs for listening groups, he participated in one of those, and we did some basic training in journalism for him.
Oh,
yeah, he's a very lively man.
Great.
Very
okay.
nice man.
Nice. Let me get this call now. All right. You're through to ChatBack.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lyson. How are you?
I am terrific. How are your panelists this morning?
They're doing well. I can attest.
Beautiful. I agree to all of them.
Excellent.
I don't have time to wait for you journalists in this country. First of all, let me commend you for the good things you do. For allowing us to go and to air our views and to mislead us and to misguide us at some time. We commend you. And for the job you do for reporting in terms of other issues, we commend you. But let me tell you about journalism a little bit from a layman's point of view, how I feel as a Zambian citizen, particularly not before I talk about or maybe let me start with the global scale. I heard a report that in our country, in the UK and the other countries and in America, a journalist will be an average journalist who handles programs will be an average of 40 years with a degree, average qualification degree. In Nigeria and Ghana, it will be average age is 25 years, the average of a diploma. In Zambia, here is 22, the average of a certificate. That's where the problem is. We have got everyone to be a journalist in this country, and everyone can produce things. That's how you see that the journalism in Zambia is highly kerfuffle. There's no journalism expect pandemonium. Everybody can say anything and people will agree. If someone can say topic, it goes anywhere with knowledge, people say, no, people listen, journalism is not practiced in a vacuum. There's no, this issue of freedom of press must be explained properly. Yes, I agree, I have got the monopoly to speak, but after I've spoken, I have no freedom because my words will need to be balanced with that I've spoken. So freedom is before you have spoken, but after you have spoken, there's no freedom. For example, I cannot stand here in South Carolina and say I've got freedom of speech. So after I've spoken, the rest of take me to court and say you sue me for either right or defamation. There's nothing saying press freedom. It must be understood in that context. Now, what am I saying? First of all, you people in the media have destroyed yourselves. Number one, people who own media houses control you. So my friend who was saying, no, if you're not bored and not courageous, you don't need to be in the media house. Those are lies. We have seen and we have taught. We hear that people who have stories that are not covered. Are you guys, if I take care of you, I say, I come to this hotel, I'll give you 100 quarters each after I finish speaking. You cover me well. And you don't. And people hear on news, you won't wonder. So that person they have covered. What news is it? You even wonder, was there news there that people have really covered the majority money? Tell me what is new. So, please, journalism in this country must be practiced well. Secondly, the media owners have directed whatever they want to do. They have an agenda and an objective. What objective they have, we don't know. What has killed journalism in this country, Lorenzo, is say press freedom without regulation. I don't believe in where people just practice things without regulation. You people, if you failed, before I have told you several times, before Amani University gives you this, whatever you call access to information, before it goes to that, and I have told you several times, don't take it to parliament until you people have what we call self-regulation. A self-regulation where if I am abused, I know where to report. You can't just tell me, no, because the Reducer Voice has abused you, go and report to the Reducer Voice. What will the Reducer Voice do? Because they have abused me already. Can they be accused and at the same time another? It's not possible. It's not possible, and I will say that it's not possible. So I am asking you, journalists, go and do self-regulation. Have a self-regulation mechanism so that journalism is practiced in a certain context. Look, we have got there's a difference between telling the truth and destroying your country. There's a difference. You can't say, no, I'm giving facts. You are busy destroying your country. Mr. Lorenz, are you telling me there's nothing wrong that's happening in America and UK? How come they protect their country better? You are destroying your country in the name of being a president. Please, you can't say I am destroying my family because I'm a journalist. No, there's no one who does that. So I want to appeal to you. Have self-regulation so that how do you go and take a photo of people who are having a good time? You go and put them in your business paper without your permission, and you say that's press freedom. What's the difference between social media and the traditional and true journalism? Where everybody just copies everybody put on social media, you also follow, and you will not be a person, and you go into journalism. You only judge us with the politics, and you can't look. If you bring something with politics here, everybody will discuss. Bring something with business here, no one will discuss, because we are not there. So the media in this country has, number one, failed to influence, as just goes wherever everybody goes. That's why people don't respect. That's my worry with the journalism we have in this country. Otherwise, you inform us, yes, we agree with us, yes, please, you can do better. And please, do better. There's different. Look, when you bring a program, bring people who are experts. Like the way Lorenzo, you have brought, we're discussing about the media. You have brought people from the media. Good. And they're speaking well from their academic point of view and what they know. But the truth is, what's happening on the ground is kerfuffle. The media, the private media is going this way. Whether it's left or right. The public media, whether it's left or right. Oh, look at the media. What is good, but is it helping this nation? So let the media influence discussions that are better, conducive, productive, not what's happening now. You can't even, it's even difficult to go and say, so after this discussion, what is my agenda? What is our aim? What are we achieving? What is the media? The media must be a set agenda, an agenda of information, of programs, we can't just have a talent show where we're singing as the only thing that's happens. Please, journalists, do better for this country. We love you, you're doing a good job. But what's happening now is below what we call journalism. Do better and do better for this country. Provide agendas that are better. And here I'm not saying God President Lungu or God President Katenchema or God. Surely, every day you're talking that's what President Lungu said this. Every day, no President Katenchema this said this. Is that the only thing you should hear? I don't have no better stories you can bring to us and say, Zambia discusses. It's just this one said this. That's all the news, Please do better. Please do better. We beg you to do better. Thank you, Lorenzo. You're doing a great job at times. We wish you all the best and happy post-operated Freedom Day. We love you guys. But do better. You can't everybody who has started a different is a journalist. Everybody, DJ is a journalist. Everybody just count as a journalist. Where is the profession? Where is your value? Please do better. We beg you to do better. May God bless Zambia and may God bless journalists. Let's do better. Don't destroy this again. This is the only country we have. We have one country. This is called Zambia. Please build it and leave it here better country. Thank you, Lorenzo. Good morning and we are joined the program.
All right, thank you. Let me have you respond to the two callers, Achitonda Champo and Lyson. Okay. All right. So let me start with Helen now, and then get on to Boyd.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much to both Mr. Champo and Lyson. I'll start with Lyson. Thank you so much for commending and recognizing that the media really is doing good work on its role to inform and educate the masses out there. I want to make this very, very clear. And I want us to help each other by identifying who a journalist is. Okay? Anyone trained in the skill of the news process, news gathering, and processing it, and information gathering, information processing, and then disseminating that information is called a journalist. But not everyone is called a journalist in this country, because for you to become a journalist, you have to undergo a certain training that is required of you, and that's when you be called a journalist if you finish that training and graduate. So journalists are trained people. And we do not want to go into the statistics, but we must know that a journalist is a trained person. And anyone who claims to be a journalist without either a certificate, a diploma, or a degree is not a journalist. Unless you produce those papers, then we'll call you a journalist. I would like to thank Mr. Lyson for coming out in the open and trying to state his position on certain issues, but I want him to understand that the coming of online media has brought about what we call citizen journalism or yellow journalism. Because, including himself, goes online to publish or disseminate certain information. The difference between Mr. Lyson and myself is I will not publish that information the moment I'll see it or come across it. I will need to verify the information. I will need to balance the information. I will need to be accurate in the way I am going to deal with that information. And, just be fair in the way I am going to report. So not everything that we see online is published by journalists. I am able to tell a story that is done by a trained journalist and somebody who claims to be a journalist. There's a very huge difference. And even just the packaging of news. We have seen people now that are copying the language of journalism, the way we do our stories in the newspapers or online. And when they are posting, also they've become journalists and they want to copy the same sentence, the way we, we do our stories. But then a trained journalist will understand the angle of a certain story or a particular story. We've seen a lot of postings, and sometimes, yes, there are mistakes. We are not saying that there are no mistakes that we've made. There are mistakes that have been made where somebody will just pick it as it is and publish it as news. That is wrong. And for journalists, we have always said we need to verify facts. I am not trying to say social media is a bad thing. It is a good thing in that it has also helped us in our career as journalists to have news ideas, to come across certain information that we need to work on or investigate and inform the masses. Then when he talked about self-regulation, I think thank you so much for your support. And that is where we are right now. As the media in this country, we have said we want to separate boys from men. And we want to do it in a proper way. We have we had our first Indaba, the second Indaba, and I think Rolezo, you can bear me witness. I've been explaining these things here on Radio Christian Voice. Yeah. So we there's something that we came up with, the media bill, what we're calling the media bill, all in an effort to try and go the self-regulation route. We want to regulate the media, and this media must be regulated by ourselves. And we are hoping if Parliament passes this bill, we are hoping we will now institute what we are calling ZAMEC. And ZAMEC now, like Mr. Lyson has rightly put it, ZAMEC will now look into issues of which media is doing this, what journalist is saying what, who has offended who. If I offend Mr. Lyson today, he will not take me to court. He will have to go through ZAMEC, and ZAMEC is the one that is going to come up with measures of how they can discipline me. We do not want court processes anymore. We do not want to see media houses, individual journalists being dragged to court by members of the public because we do not follow certain steps in doing our work. So thank you very much, Mr. Lyson. And we are very happy that you are also supporting the self-regulatory mechanism. Then on the issue of journalists and the story publication, where he's saying that a journalist can only publish a story once you give them 100 kwacha. I want to differ with Mr. Lyson. I very much want to differ with him because I am employed, I am a trained journalist, and if I am employed as a journalist, I must work as such. And I don't think for you to feature us here, Rolenzo, we have paid you 100 kwacha. No. Yes, the 100 kwacha that Mr. Lyson is talking about, I know them. When journalists go out there to cover events, institutions have taken it upon themselves to give journalists transport refund. Journalists do not go to cover events and say, first give us 100 kwacha. No. When we wake up in the morning, every day, what we do first, we come up with what we call a diary in the newsroom. And my goal is to ensure that I work on the diary that I've provided for the day. But there are these other events where we are asked to go and cover. Press briefings by political parties, by institutions, and including MISA, we've held several press briefings, and we are covered, well covered by the media. But that does not mean that we give them 100 kwacha for them to cover us. What it means is we are just giving them 100 kwacha. Mr. Lyson, I'm sure you would want to know that we have journalists that have come to cover you or your event at your place of work who have walked. They come on foot to come and just cover you. You find that the radio station is in town and you are having your activity in Kalingalinga. Honestly speaking, can't you say thank you to them and just give them that transport refund for them to jump on a bus and get back to the office? Not all media houses have transport. That is one thing you must know. We have radio stations. We have media houses here in Lusaka. I'm not going, before I go to community media, here in Lusaka, who have no transport. But they go out there to do their work because they believe in journalism. They believe in the people of Zambia. Their duty is to the people of Zambia because they are offering a public service. So, if you are saying that they only cover us if we give them 100 kwacha, I want to differ because that 100 kwacha has got nothing. It's not even tied to any news story. Not even the editor sees that 100 kwacha. It is for the journalists. It is their transport refund. And you do well by giving them those transport refunds. And we will not discourage you because you also need to understand the economic status of the media in this country. Not all media houses are doing so well. Some of them go without salaries for months. Some of them go with 800 kwacha per month. And I think it's more than what we give our maids. But a journalist like myself goes home with 800 kwacha, and you think that's fair? And how do you expect me to work? So what we are trying to say is we need, in as much as we are talking about pluralism, in as much as we are happy that there are a lot of media houses that are now, operational, we want also to improve the status of the media houses. We also want to improve the status of the journalists in society. We cannot continue to be insulted to say, no. We want to improve the status of the journalists such that when a journalist is offered a job elsewhere, they say, no, I am okay where I am. But look at the demand for jobs in public media. People are running away from private media because the public media at the moment is the one that is a good pair than the private media. So when we talk about these issues, I know as journalists we call it bralizo. But when we talk about bralizo, it's not that you are paying me to do your story. You're just helping me to find my way back to the office. Probably if I have another assignment tomorrow, you are also helping me to go to ensure that I go back to that to in the field and get the stories and inform the public. So we need to understand the situation that the media is in right now. And I want to appeal to Mr. Lyson to help us advocate for better conditions of service in the media, one, and also to help lobby government to come up with a deliberate policy where they are going to introduce a media fund. And this fund must help the growth of the media. This fund must help for continued existence of the media houses instead of killing. Some radio stations here, when you go, they are just playing music. They have no people that work for them. Why? There's no money to pay people. And there are so many interventions that MISA is working on in just trying to help. If I am getting 800 kwacha, for example, I need to get into an agreement with my boss. If Boyd is the owner of that radio station, let Boyd allow me for the few hours that I can do my work, and while at his radio station, while I go and do something else, then he can pay me that 800 kwacha.
I received that prophecy. May I own one in the future?
Amen. So we are asking Mr. Lyson to help us as journalists to advocate for better policies that will not kill the media, but that will help the journalists and the media houses, perform much better. And he can also increase that 100 kwacha from 100 kwacha to 200 kwacha, because he's also contributing to the well-being of the media. And not that he's paying me or buying space for a story. Buying space for a story is too different from what he's talking about.
Lorenzo, can I add something? To be brutally honest, media business is not business for small boys. It's serious business, it's big business. And if you're going to set up a media house, then you should know that you have the muscle to pay people, pay them well, pay them good, so that the image of the media industry is not tarnished in any way. Truth of the matter is that these issues of Lalizo and what have painted the media black, and for a long time. And if we are to change that, the media owners have to play a very big role in ensuring that they remunerate their staff well. They provide the necessities such as transport, stationery, and other requisites that makes a job of a journalist easier. As long as these things are not in place, we'll continue having this problem. So for those that are setting up media houses, I mean, we currently we're saying Zambia has done well. We have so many media outlets in the country, 150 plus radio stations and 45 plus TV stations, and I don't know how many daily publications on the streets and online publications as well, which is okay. It's a good sign. However, this is a recipe for disaster in terms of poverty escalation if media owners are not taking care of their journalists well. If you know you cannot take care of them, don't set up shop, because that is going to contribute. If you just set up shop and say, as long as I've got a microphone and the speaker there, I can go on air, you are making a mistake. And that is why the image of the media keeps deteriorating every day. We are seeing media people being labeled this, that all the time, in the negative all the time.
0960-200-490. You're through. Okay, we seem to have lost that one. Call us back on 0960-200-490 right on the program. All right, so here we go with our next one. Okay, you're through to ChatBack. Good morning. Hansel, please go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
the crime which they did, the case which they did. For them, they were even showing, even that people were only sensitive, were able to see the awareness of COVID-19 and that the beginning was not easily, that we create that opportunity which they are able to see that thing. And we are fighting this COVID-19 and certainly media things are being even called like the positive. So I want to ask you, madam, what are you doing about this? I want to ask you, what are you doing about positivity? Because they are even closing us, they are not even allowing us to be able to be able to get to the news and to be able to listen what we're supposed to do and to be able to know a lot of things. And we are looking at that. What are you doing? Is one people going to come as a bit of air? Or what is it? Because of that, you are doing something in the background, as you have said. What are you doing? I want that to hear. They are likely to be going to be sent back or these people will not come back from there because we have made, especially to me, I feel like it is some that will capture my rest. I will be listening. They put us, I can't even wait. And maybe just the Christian word, that's the only question with the starting to the people that DPC and the out there. I can't listen to anything. Please do something about the higher TV. Let them at least if I'm fighting, but when you have children, they'll do something wrong. Just embrace them. Don't be able to do these are your children. These major houses in Zambia. All of this is happening to you. You are the parents to them. If there's something wrong, just say, control them, not these are the things which you don't want. So the can't be just against your children, no. Go away. And I know this is that's always trying to write the words, set up for that thing that you try to close them down. So what are we doing?
Okay, all right.
And I thank God for you people who try to give a little become like your prayer. Maybe you are doing enough. You need to just support the one. And
Okay.
you are waiting in the condition for them.
Thank you, Hansel. All right, I think he was our last caller for today. Let me get your concluding remarks in line with the previous call as well. Let's start with Boyd and then Helen will cap it off for us. How do you conclude today's program, Boyd?
Well, I want to say that as a media practitioner myself, I'm quite overwhelmed by the support that people are giving to the media. I think the callers that have come through the program have attested to the fact that there is so much support. Hansel is one such who has just said that he's ready to support the media all the way, and he passionately follows the happenings in the media in Zambia. I would want to urge everyone that as we commemorate our theme, as we celebrate the theme in commemoration of the World Press Freedom Day for this year, which is journalism without fear or favor, work with us. Work with us. Let's move together. The media is not your enemy. It has never been your enemy. We're supposed to be partners in development, partners in human development. It's for the good of society, for the good of everyone. And so I would want to pray that as we are moving, let us move together. Don't throw stones at journalists. When they come to cover your event, don't beat them up. Don't harass them. Don't insult them. Don't break their equipment because that is making their work extremely difficult. But otherwise, we're very happy with your support and we'll continue giving you the best.
Mm-hmm. All right. Helen, how do you wrap up today's program?
Okay, thank you very much. And I would like to say thank you so much to Mr. Hansel.
Hansel, yes.
Hansel.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hansel, thank you so much for acknowledging that the media exists to inform, and you also acknowledge the difficulties that we go through. In response to his question as to what we are doing as MISA on the issue of Prime TV, it will be very premature for me to respond, yes, Prime TV is going to come back on air, or no, Prime TV will not come back on air. Because like I said, we are still doing something, negotiating in the background, and we can only hope that this negotiation is done in the quickest possible time. Why is Mr. Hansen talking a lot about Prime TV, it's because he has noticed that there is a gap in the media. And as I am concluding, I would like to talk about this gap. We have what we call the public media and the private media. So really, there is a gap in the way we are informing the masses out there. And each media house is different from the other. We are not doing it the same way because of our different house styles. So, but then Mr. Hanson is supposed to be encouraged to also advocate for change at the public service broadcast, because Mr. Hanson, if I'm meant to believe, is a taxpayer, and ZNBC is a public service broadcaster. There seem to be a difference or a gap or a division in the way we are operating as media, especially when it comes to news, because the public service broadcaster is not doing something that we are all expecting them to do. And we need to encourage them to start doing that. If the public broadcaster, in this case ZNBC, is doing what we all want them to do, then there will be no gap. There will be no missing of Prime TV. There will be no missing of any other media house. We will all know that, oh, okay, these people are doing what they're expected to do. But what they are doing now has brought about competition, and competition is good in business. And we need to encourage all other media houses to try by all means to balance up and bridge the gap. We need to balance our stories. We need to tell even the controversial stories. We need to tell them to the people. We need to remain, as we are supposed to be, very, very ethical in the way we are carrying out our news. And to the public out there, I would like to say thank you so much for your support. We've received overwhelming support, and we would like to encourage you to continue supporting us in advocacy for better conditions for media, advocacy for better operating environment, in advocacy for demanding that our freedom to expression are upheld, in demanding that access to information law is enacted. We need the masses out there to turn out to numbers and just come on board and support the advocacy programs that MISA is carrying out on a day-to-day basis. We also need to stand up and identify partners that can come on board and support the local media. We know maybe he has a business. He can support one radio station or two. Community media should not be forgotten. We need this support to come on board so that the media can operate without fear or favor.
Okay. All right. We'd like to appreciate each one of you that did send in your contributions and contribute to the program. And this is where we have to come to the end of a program. Coming up is news, after which Chipo will pick it up with today's edition of Lifestyle. So stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programming. Let me have this